I wanted to do this quick video for you because I keep saying, for people, and especially in my instance, that you need to change the story. You need to change the story that you're telling yourself. And to say that is one thing, but people will go, change the story. Like, what does that mean? Like, what are you talking about? Or how do I change the story? So I figured I would do a quick little video and I would explain it in my current situation so that people could maybe use that as an example as to what they're telling their story about. So I'll give you an example. With my recent ex, it was a long distance relationship. And with him, I felt that everything was different and I felt that it was going to work. And I dreamt that it was going to work. And I was manifesting this. Like, if I tell you how many hours I would spend dreaming about the meeting of him and how we're going to meet and everything that would happen, and how our relationship would be together and how we would work together and build a business and where we would live and the fact that we were going to get married and all of these things. I told myself, this is the one. Like, I was 100% convinced that this was the man I was going to marry. It was to the point where I was ready to do it. I was ready to, take his last name. I knew he didn't have excessive funds, so I was like thinking, oh my God, I don't need a ring. I'll just tattoo his name on my finger, like crazy stuff. And I would tell myself like that nobody compares, like nobody compares to him, whether it's mentality or body or his work ambition or whatever. I told myself that nobody compares to him. And I cut friends off. I cut friends off who disagreed and told me I was crazy or that this wasn't going to work or whatever, because I had it so much in my mind that regardless of whatever happened, we were going to prevail no matter what, because we had little fights here and there and we make up. And I was just convinced like nothing was going to make this not happen, like, because we were just meant to be. Basically, I created a whole love story in my head based off of who he said he was. And you know I couldn't understand when what he said didn't come to fruition in action. But the whole point I'm getting at here is that I told myself this story, right? And as you tell the story, it kind of snowballs. It gets bigger and bigger, right? So you're totally convinced that, you're feeling it. Like you feel this like you've never felt for anybody in your whole life. You see signs, you're dreaming of it, you're manifesting. And when I say you're manifesting, like, how some people would manifest to be rich, I was manifesting or thinking I'm manifesting this relationship into existence. It's like, it was almost like an obsession. Like, it's like you think about this person all day, every day, Anyway, my point being is, with all of that being said, when things didn't go well, I still felt this tremendous connection, right? But it made it hard for me. It made it hard for me to date. It made it hard for me to let go. It made it hard for me to open up to anybody else. And, I always had this hope running in the background that regardless of something, regardless of this, it's going to work out. And regardless of that, that's just a hiccup. And you always have this hope running based on the story that you created. That I created that story, that he's the only one for me. And he's this and he's that and blah, 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 blah. I created that story and I believed in that story. Now you got to remember psychologically, when you tell yourself something so many times, that it becomes a belief and a belief system. So if you don't know about core beliefs and beliefs, what they actually are, basically a belief is a thought repeated over and over again. But what happens is the belief then becomes something ingrained in you, which is hard to then break out of. My point being, some of you, depending on if you've reached the status that I'm at, you need to change your story. So you're like, well, what the hell does that mean? Change my story. How the hell do I do that, right? Same way that you created the first one. You have to start telling yourself There's better out there. There is. There's a better person out there. There's a person that's going to do the little things that you ask for. There's a person that's not going to bitch about doing the little things that you've asked for. Or there's a person that's just going to do things that they know will make you happy because they fucking love you. And they actually love you. So therefore, they do the things that they know will make you happy without you having to ask. Like, is that fucking not mind-blowing? Imagine that. Imagine somebody doing something for you because they love you and they know that you would like it and that it would make you happy. Not because you had to ask for it. They just do it. You know, tell yourself that you're lovable. Tell yourself the opposite of maybe what that person's telling you. Maybe that person's telling you you're an egg or you're difficult or whatever because they don't want to do what you're asking them to do or whatever it is. I don't know your story. I can only tell you versions of my story from different people or whatever it is. And last but not least, you got to come to terms with the fact that that person's not the one. Because you know what? If that person was the one, you wouldn't have had to ask them to do those things in the first place because they'd be doing it anyway. So you got to change your story. So change it to whatever you now want it to be. Change it to the fact that you're going to meet this great person. Or you're going to get that great job. Or your business is going to sell 1 million widgets. Whatever it is, right? Because if you stand in that belief, and if you formulate that thought and have that thought enough, repeat that thought enough times in your head, it's going to become a belief. And then a belief becomes action, right? Wasn't it Henry Ford that says, if you believe you can or you can't, it's so. So if you believe you can't do it, you can't do it. If you believe you can do it, you can do it. So that's my advice, and that's where I'm currently at in life, is that I needed to change my story. If I never changed the story, I'd be hanging on to this false hope for the rest of my frickin' life. And that would traumatize me in relationships going forward, right? So I need to change the story. There's better out there. There's somebody that will do for me what I want without me asking. There's, I have to change it to whatever things I need to assess. Okay, so that's my advice to you. So I hope it helps.